It's night 6 on Survivor Millennials vs Gen Z, and the Gen Z tribe returns from tribal council. In confessional, Denisha admits she is still in shock by what happened at tribal council. From her knowledge, there was zero discussion of Gabe going home. It was always between Laura, Griff, and Jed. In another confessional, Griff says he's unsure what shady business is going on here at the Gen Z tribe. The plan was simple. Laura was supposed to go home, but she stayed because 6 people cast their votes against Gabe. This just confirms there's an alliance of 6 working together, because otherwise this secret plan wouldn't have worked. Jed then asks the group if anyone wants to talk about what just happened, but the camp remains silent. Casey then says wow out loud, claiming that he never saw this coming from a tribe that looked so cheerful and honest. In confessional, Casey says he feels confused and hurt at the same time. Gabe was such a great guy to have around. It's impossible to think of any reason to vote him out, especially on day 6. How is Laura still here? How is Jed still here? Heck, even Griff is still here. Is this a sign that the outsiders came together and got enough people to flip on the majority? Casey then pulls Christine aside for a chat, and he tells her he cannot control his thoughts right now. He's thinking a million hours a mile. Christine then corrects him that it's a million miles an hour, but that's despite the point. She understands he feels very betrayed and hurt, but what he needs to do is calm down so they can talk it through. Casey then asks her if she can explain why Gabe ended up as the vote, but Christine tells him that she will talk to him tomorrow when he's calm enough for her to explain it to him. In confessional, Christine says she doesn't know how to unveil the truth to Casey. He's a very emotional thinker, so he might spiral tonight if he learns the truth. Plus, she needs time to think about what she'll tell him, because she can't just out a 6-person alliance. Meanwhile at camp, Laura whispers to Caitlin and Sam, thanking them for being by her side tonight. Sam tells her to keep her happiness at a low tonight because it's an upsetting night for many, so it's best to remain respectful. In confessional, Sam says that part of her is extremely happy the plan went through, but another part of her is upset that this plan wasn't executed any smoother. The whole whispering session at tribal council was completely unnecessary, but Christine and Caitlin couldn't read the room. People from the minority observed everything, so it could have messed everything up if the plan got exposed publicly. It's now day 7, and Christine talks with Caitlin and Henry alone, letting them know that Casey will want to talk with her soon about last night's vote. Henry then tells her that she'll need to lie to him. They can't expose their 6-person alliance to him. Maybe she can tell him that the whispering on the left side of tribal council caused all of them to flip. It masks the fact that there's a true group of 6 working together. Christine says that sounds like a good idea, and they can pin Laura as the initial person who brought up Gabe's name to them before tribal council. In confessional, Henry says that he hopes this lie works out for him and his allies, because they can't risk themselves getting exposed. Once a tribe swap comes around, the Gen Z tribe needs to stick together. They can't be divided like the Millennials are right now. Christine soon goes to Casey, and Casey thanks her for approaching him as soon as she could. Christine sighs and tells Casey she feels bad for him because he was left out, but there's nothing he should worry about. This whole Gabe plan just came up last minute. Laura tried pushing for Gabe because he's a huge social threat, so then the discussion around that transferred to tribal council. That's why the whole left side of tribal council ended up voting for Gabe. Casey then asks her why she didn't trust Gabe enough, and Christine says she honestly didn't know what to do at that moment when she was told to vote for Gabe. Casey then asks her who specifically pushed so hard for Gabe, but Christine says she doesn't know. She believes it was just a collective concern because he is too likable of a person out here. He could have easily won this game. In confessional, Casey says he's still bummed out that Gabe went home, but at the end of the day, things happen for a reason. If Gabe was a threat to win this game, perhaps it's for the best that he got out last night. Right now, there's nobody to turn to for guidance except for Christine. He'll rely on this relationship because she's the one giving him the most clarity out here. It's time for the next reward challenge, and everyone gets to their respective mats. Justin says good morning, filling in the millennials that Gabe was the one voted out from Gen Z last night. All of them are in complete shock, and Natalia asks if this is some joke. Justin then asks Natalia what the millennials thought would go down at Gen Z's tribal council, and Natalia says they were all convinced that Jed would be the one to go. They never expected a Gen Z to go, let alone a strong member at that. Justin then asks Jed if last night was a fun night for them, and Jed says it really was. This game never lets them down, and last night had an explosive result. Justin then tells Jed that they can go ahead and rejoin their old tribe now, so Jed heads over to the millennials mat and claims they are glad to finally be back. Justin then confirms that today's challenge is for reward. In this, they will play a game of Survivor Password. One member will be in the hot seat and will be given a word that the rest of their tribe must guess. The one in the hot seat can only give one-word clues, and those clues cannot contain the password itself. Both tribes will have the same word each round, and we will go back and forth between tribes until one tribe guesses the correct word. The first tribe to score 4 points will win reward. For today's reward, it's a pretty big one. The winning tribe will get to visit the Survivor shop where each member will be able to get one item for themselves, whether it's food, a luxury, or even something that can affect their game. Justin then asks Gen Z to sit one member out today, so Sam says she's sitting this one out. With that, the tribes are now ready for the challenge, and Justin asks both tribes to send one person into the hot seat. Gen Z choose Caitlin, while millennials choose Lydia. Justin then says that by random draw, Caitlin will go first. Once Caitlin and Lydia learn the same password, Caitlin thinks about her clue and then says the word fly. Laura then says that Gen Z is guessing bird as the password, but Justin says that's incorrect. Lydia then goes next and says the word colorful. Jed then tells their tribe it has to be parrot, so Jed guesses parrot for millennials. Justin claims that is correct, meaning millennials score the first point. Up next in the hot seats are Henry for Gen Z and Renee for millennials. Renee goes first this time, so she takes a minute to think of a clue and then she says the word dog. Millennials quickly discuss and then Jed says that their guess is cat. Justin claims it's incorrect, so Henry is up next. Henry then gives the clue fire, so Laura says that Gen Z is guessing the word pit. Justin claims that's incorrect, so it's Renee's turn again, so she says the word sparky. Jed then guesses the word strike, but Justin says that's incorrect once again. Henry is up again, so he says striking. Laura then says that Gen Z is guessing the word spark, and Justin claims they are correct. Nick then asks Renee what the hell she's doing with her first clue, and Renee admits she thought Spark was a dog name, so she went for that angle. On to round 3, we have Christine and Rhea in the hot seat this time, and Christine is going first. She then gives the word water, so Laura says that Gen Z guesses the word bottle. Justin claims that's incorrect, so Rhea goes next and gives the word bucket. Jed then says the word is well, and Justin says that is correct. Millennials lead with 2 points while Gen Z are 1 point behind them. For round 4, we have Griff and Natalia in the hot seat, so Natalia is up first. Her word clue is paper. Renee then whispers to her tribe that it has to be a tree, but Kendi suggests it's parchment. Jed then announces that their tribe guesses the word tree, but Justin claims they are wrong. Griff is next, so he gives the word tribal, so pretty quickly, Laura says that the word is parchment. Justin says that Gen Z are correct, meaning we're all tied up now. On to round 5, we have Bobby and Omar in the hot seat. Bobby is up first, so she gives the word ivy. Gen Z discuss really quickly and then Laura says that they are going with poison, but Justin says that's incorrect. Omar then gives the word swinging, so Jed guesses vine, and Justin says that's correct. That puts millennials in the lead, only needing 1 more point to win compared to Gen Z's 2 points. For round 6, We have Casey and Andy in the hot seats. Andy is up first, so he gives the word protection. Jed then guesses idol, but Justin claims that is incorrect. Casey then gives the clue necklace, so Lara's tribe easily guesses immunity as the word, which is correct. Both tribes need one more point to win reward, so the final people in the hot seat are Denisha and Kendi. Denisha then gives the word bag as her word, so Lara says that Gen Z is guessing backpack. Justin says that's wrong, so Kendi is next. He then gives the word small, so Jed guesses the word purse. Justin claims that's incorrect, so Denisha is next and gives out the word coins. Laura then says that Gen Z is guessing the word pouch, and Justin claims that is correct. That means Gen Z wins reward in the form of the survivor shop visit. Nick then tells his tribe that they truly suck at challenges, and Kendi gets a bit annoyed by that and tells him that he quite literally told them all it was parchment a few words ago, but nobody even listened. Nick squints and asks him how that's his fault, and Lydia intervenes and tells them to both leave this conversation for later. Back on the mats, Justin tells the Gen Z tribe that they will head back to camp where they will find a set of rules on how the survivor shop works. With that, both tribes begin heading back to camp, and in confessional, Kendi says he never felt so frustrated in this game like he did during that reward challenge. People didn't listen to his input that entire challenge, as if they couldn't take him seriously or thought his English wasn't good enough for them. It really hurts because he's putting in 100% in these challenges, but this tribe can't win shit if they don't work like a team. Back at the Millennials camp, the mood is much lower than usual, and Jed tells everyone that this tribe just can't catch a break. Nick sighs and says that it's fine because they can still win tomorrow's immunity challenge. The survivor shop doesn't mean much anyway. Lydia then says that the survivor shop actually does mean a lot because there are going to be advantages up for grabs. That means they just gave Gen Z a lot more power in this game, which is even scarier with them having 10 members. In confessional, Kendi says he's starting to get pissed off because of Nick more and more. He lacks self-awareness, he complains all the time, he's a bad listener, he's a horrible communicator, he sucks as a tribe leader, he doesn't take things seriously enough, and he isn't inclusive of his team members. Unfortunately, this tribe seems to value his quote-unquote physical strength, so eliminating him would be extremely difficult. Hopefully one day his dream will come true. Natalia and Jed chat alone outside of camp, and Natalia asks Jed what happened on the other tribe. Jed then says it's a bit crazy over there as it has seemingly become a split tribe. In confessional, Jed says that they need to make sure that Natalia, Renee, Nick, and Andy are all still working with them because they make up 5 of the 9 people on this tribe. Therefore, they control who goes home next if they were to lose another immunity challenge, which at this rate is totally possible. Jed then asks Natalia how their alliance is doing, and Natalia says she barely even considers them an alliance because of Nick and Andy. Jed then tells her that they need to keep their numbers intact and take out Lydia because she's the next biggest threat. She is the leader of that group of 4 on the other side, so once they take her out, the other 3 will scramble like there's no tomorrow. In confessional, Natalia says that she understands how important it is to stick to the numbers in this game, but herself and especially Renee are struggling to align themselves with a Dumbo like Nick. He's just an icky, annoying person who she can't live with anymore. And don't get her started with his constant farting. Natalia later walks with Renee through the jungle, and Natalia asks if they should stick to their group of 5 with Jed, Nick, and Andy. Renee admits she's fine working with Jed and Andy, but Nick is a problem. Natalia sighs and says she knows, but Jed and Andy want to keep Nick as their 5th number. In confessional, Renee says she doesn't care if Jed and Andy want to keep Nick. She knows it's not the right move for herself, so she will go to the other side of this tribe and tell all of them that she'd like Nick gone. Meanwhile, Jed and Nick chat, and Jed asks Nick if he can smooth things over with Renee and Natalia since they do not like him at the moment. Nick makes a confused face, asking Jed if this is some practical joke, but Jed says it's not. Natalia just admit to them that her and Renee want him gone soon. Nick immediately goes cold, and in confessional, Nick says he can't work with two people who actively want to see him go. He'd much rather form a group of people who actually want him here. If Renee and Natalia want him gone, he's going to need to fight back and work against them from now on. Nick then tells Jed he's going to have to talk to them later, but based on what is being said, there might not be any good reason to work with those two anymore. Jed sighs and says they are giving Lydia so much power in that case, but Nick tells Jed to stop tunneling so much on Lydia. She's not this big figure that they keep pushing. In confessional, Jed smirks and says they are working with idiots in the Amazon. Aren't millennials supposed to be older and wiser than the Gen Z? Renee chats with Lydia and Omar, letting them know she's ready to pitch a big move to them. In confessional, Renee says she hasn't spoken that much game with Lydia and Omar so far, so this could be a good opportunity to get them on her side to flip on Nick, the one person most people hate anyway. Renee then tells the two she wants Nick gone next, so if they can come together and do this as a newly formed team, they can perhaps keep each other safe from now on so they can all make it further together. Omar says this sounds great, and Lydia tells Renee it's probably going to work because they have the numbers. In confessional, Omar says he's excited that Renee extended an olive branch to him because that means he's no longer in a minority. That's unless she's straight up lying to his face, which is also possible. Nick and Andy already showed him that they don't trust him, so for all he cares, they can go. Nick meanwhile finds Andy and tells him he has bad news. Andy asks what now, and Nick says that Jed told him about Natalia and Renee plotting against them. Andy says he doesn't understand why they are doing that if there are 4 other people in the minority, but Nick says those two have always lacked knowledge. He actually expected better from Natalia because she was the one person he was excited to work with this season. In confessional, Andy says it's frustrating how people don't know what loyalty is on this tribe. Natalia and Renee are flip-flops who go with the wind, and that might be more dangerous than the 4 people in the minority on this tribe. Nick and Andy then approach Renee at camp, and Nick asks her why she doesn't trust him anymore and why she's spreading his name around as a voting option. Renee asks him who said that, and Nick tells her it was Jed. Renee then goes quiet for a moment and then thanks him and leaves. Nick then follows her, telling her their conversation isn't over, but Renee says she just ended it herself and is done talking. As Renee walks around the jungle looking for Jed, she starts screaming out their name to hopefully find them quicker. In confessional, Renee says she's so pissed off at Jed for spilling everything to Nick. She needs to find out why Jed is trying to help Nick out if the whole goal is to take him out. Renee then finds Jed alone, so she immediately confronts them about the information they shared with Nick about her. Jed then claims they never told Nick shit, but Renee says that's a lie. She doesn't believe them. Jed then swears on their life that they never did. All they did was ask Nick and Andy if they trust the alliance they have going with her and Natalia, but Nick said no. That's all it was. In confessional, Jed sighs and says they did not expect things to get worse. It's time to gaslight the hell out of these people because the truth will only hurt their own game more. Renee then tells Jed she hates liars, and there's big time lying energy coming from them. Jed once again tells Renee she is wrong. She's letting Nick blame it on an innocent person for free. Renee then says she can't be with them anymore, so she walks away in tears. Jed meanwhile stands there in shock, unsure how to react to what just happened. At the Gen Z tribe, everyone arrives to camp where a sign stands in front of the shelter. They all go up to read it, and in confessional, Caitlin says that since her tribe won today's reward challenge, they will each get to visit the survivor shop once. On each person's turn, they will get to pick one item from the shop from a total of 10 different choices. The order will be randomized, so she's hoping she can be one of the first to go since there could be extremely important advantages on the line. Once the order is randomized, the finalized order will be Laura first, then Griff, then Phil, then Sam, then Henry, then Christine, then Bobby, then Casey, then Denisha, and finally Caitlin. Laura then makes her way down the path to the shop, and in confessional, Henry says that the order for the survivor shop is generally not too bad. The only concern is that Laura and Griff are going first and second, two people who aren't in his main alliance. Thankfully, all of his allies except for Caitlin will go back to back after that, so there must be at least one important advantage they can grab before they are all gone. Laura approaches the survivor shop, and she immediately gasps as she observes what options she has. In confessional, Laura says she can't believe she got lucky enough to go first to the survivor shop because she can choose whatever she wants. Literally anything. There are 6 food and luxury items, including a pizza, soda, bathtub, spaghetti, wine, and a big cake. And then there are 4 game-changing items, including 2 mystery scrolls, a locked mystery box, and then a key that can be used to unlock the mystery box. What will she go with? Of course, the sugar rush. Laura then goes up to the cake and begins eating it, claiming that this is the best day of her life. She continues munching on more cake, eventually dancing to herself. Up next for the survivor shop is Griff, and he observes the options and says he feels like Laura took an advantage since only 4 game-related items remain. In confessional, Griff says he needs to play smart here and not make himself into a bigger target. People will find out what he took because Laura knows all the damn items up for grabs. So he needs to come off like he's dumb and choose the lamest item in the shop. Griff then takes the soda and chugs it, and then he says he hopes this soda just allowed him to win Soul Survivor. Maybe he will start his own Soul Survivor soda brand after this. Next up in line is Phil, so he immediately looks at the scrolls and chooses one for himself. He then reads the scroll, and in confessional, Phil says he's pumped because he found an extra vote advantage. This could be very important for him down the line if he's ever in danger. For now, he'll keep this in his back pocket. Next in line for the shop is Sam, so she looks at her choices and then picks the pizza. She starts digging in, and in confessional, Sam says she would rather eat food and let her next 3 alliance members take the game-changing items. Plus, everyone knows how much she loves pizza, so she has an excuse to pick it over anything else. Up next to the shop is Henry, so he says he's surprised there's still some game-related items here. He then chooses the scroll and goes to read it. In confessional, Henry says that he just gained an immunity scroll which grants him immunity at the next tribal council he attends. It's not exactly what he wanted, but it's better than nothing. Plus, it keeps these game-related items away from Casey and Denisha since Christine and Bobby are next in line. Hopefully those two don't go for any of the luxury and food items. Christine is up next for the survivor shop, so she picks the key and unlocks the box. Then, Bobby comes next to the shop and observes the mystery box, bathtub, spaghetti, and wine as her only 4 options. Bobby then covers her face and says she's so indecisive. In confessional, Bobby says she doesn't know if this is a Gen Z thing, but she sucks at making key decisions in her life. Even the smallest things make her anxious and paranoid. She doesn't care that much for the spaghetti and wine, but that bathtub is very tempting. She smells like jungle rat piss and needs proper soap to wash it all off. However, that mystery box might have something even better for her, so she might have to go for that. Bobby then breathes out and says she's going with the box, so she goes up to it and opens it. Bobby gasps when she looks inside, and in confessional, Bobby cheers because she got a hidden immunity idol that is good up to the final 5. Never in her survivor life did she think she would get one of these. To anyone who doubted her potential in this game, think again. Casey is next to arrive at the shop, so once he sees his 3 options, he gets extremely upset. He then says he'll just take the spaghetti, though an advantage would have been nice. Denisha is then next to the shop, so she says she doesn't even drink wine that often, so she's going for the bathtub. She then dips in and relaxes, claiming that she never thought she'd take a bath in the middle of the Amazon. Last but not least, Caitlin arrives and sees the glass of wine as her only option, so she takes it and claims she's not even complaining that she got this as her little reward. Once Caitlin returns from the survivor's shop, everyone is allowed to speak again, so Griff immediately claims that he took a soda, which can be confirmed by Laura. Laura nods, so then Griff thanks her for confirming and then claims that Laura also took a game-related item. Laura then asks him where he got that idea from, and Griff says there were 5 food and luxury items when he got to the shop after her, and just 4 game-related options. Laura then swears she had a giant thing of cake and that there were only 4 game-related items. Everyone can come check her teeth too if they want. Casey then speaks up and says that he was only left with 3 non-game related items, so at least 4 people before him and after Griff must have taken those. Nobody says a word in response to that, and in confessional, Phil says it got really awkward when Casey called out the people who likely have all the advantages. Of course, there were only 2 scrolls and a mystery box with a potential advantage inside of it, so only 3 people have something in their pocket. Nobody will tell the truth because it's not for Casey to know. Thankfully, it seems all the advantages are in the hands of the people who voted out Gabe last round. Christine, Henry, Bobby, Phil, and Sam come together outside of camp, and Phil says that they should share what they each got since it's obvious to everyone on the tribe they have important items. Christine then asks Bobby if she was able to open the mystery box she unlocked with a key, and Bobby says she wasn't even aware there was a whole key that had to be used. She did choose the box though and found a regular hidden immunity idol inside. Phil's eyes light up and he claims that's really good to have, especially this early into the game. He himself chose a mystery scroll and picked up an extra vote advantage that expires after Final 6. Henry then claims he has the lamest one, which is an immunity scroll that has to be used at the next tribal council he attends. Bobby then says that these items are pretty good, but Sam says she personally expected much more powerful items up for grabs. The only powerful tool is the idol, unless Laura truly lied to them about the cake. Bobby then says she doubts it because she actually had Laura do a breath check with her, and her mouth smelled like sweet sugar. In confessional, Christine says she is so happy that all the advantages are out of the hands of those on the outs, especially Casey. That dude would make this game 100 times scarier if he had an idol in his hands right now. What surprises her even more is that Griff apparently took a soda over any game-related items, which is the stupidest thing he could have done as someone on the bottom of the tribe. Thank God some people here don't know how to play Survivor. Meanwhile at camp, Casey, Denisha, Laura, Caitlin, and Griff are together, and Laura says she's going to go find the rest of the tribe and see where they went. She then leaves, so Casey admits to the rest that something doesn't feel right. There's 5 people who immediately left camp and ironically, those 5 have advantages. Griff then adds that Laura too just left, and she might also have something game-related. In confessional, Casey says it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize what's going on right now. The people with the advantages are teaming up against the people without anything. The only thing preventing him from doing anything about it right now is the fact that Christine is in that group of people. He feels like they still have some trust with each other, so he needs to check in with her before he does anything else. Later on, Casey gets an opportunity to speak to Christine, so he asks if everything's alright with her lately. Christine says yes and tells him to stop being so paranoid. Casey tells her he doesn't understand why a group of 5 people with unknown shop items would keep it all a secret between them and then walk off together to talk alone. Christine then once again tells him to stop getting so worried about it. Casey asks why it has to be hidden from people, and Christine tells him that these advantages need to stay out of certain people's hands. Casey then asks if he's one of those people in that case, and Christine tells him that there are certain people who don't know if they can fully trust him. And before he asks who that is, she can't share that with him because she can tell he'll go on a rampage about it. Casey shakes his head and tells Christine he feels awful that she's hiding this from him, but Christine tells him that he needs to show her that he is trustworthy and chill before she can share every single piece of information with him. He barely spoke game with her anyway until after the Gabe vote, and suddenly it seems like he's using their personal relationship to pry out game information from her. Casey tells her that's not at all what he's intending, but Christine tells him she needs some time before she can share more information with him. In confessional, Casey says that he needs to trust Christine's word at this point. Hopefully she has his back moving forward and will eventually trust him enough to be more open with him. He doesn't have anywhere else to go, so this is his only route forward. Laura meanwhile joins Sam, Bobby, and Caitlin, and Laura asks them if they got anything good at the shop today. Sam then says she got a pizza, and then Bobby tells her she found an idol in the mystery box. The boys also have advantages. Phil has an extra vote while Henry has immunity at his next tribal council. Caitlin then says that the 3 people on the outs are suspicious of a majority alliance at the moment, and it's mainly Griff and Casey doing the speculating. Bobby laughs and says it's no surprise since 5 of them got up and walked away from camp with no warning. In confessional, Bobby says she loves this alliance she's in with Caitlin, Sam, Christine, Henry, Phil, and Laura. They are extremely powerful at the moment since they hold a massive majority while also holding a lot of powerful tools in their back pockets. Of course, her priority is to keep the girls protected over Henry and Phil, but that shouldn't be a concern anyway if her alliance sticks together and picks off the minority. Sam then starts talking about how Griff gives off sneaky energy, and Bobby suddenly notices something in the distance. She then walks over to it without warning and jumps up the tree to pick up a package. Everyone else looks over at her in shock, and Bobby says she can't believe she just found another hidden immunity idol. Laura tells her to hide it quick so nobody sees her, and in confessional, Caitlin says she can't believe Bobby of all people is in possession of 2 hidden immunity idols. That's crazy lucky, especially because she didn't even have to put in that much effort in obtaining both. This is amazing for the girls because Bobby is all about protecting them moving forward, so this is a very key alliance member to have as they move forward into this game. It's day 8, and both tribes arrive at the mats for the next immunity challenge. Justin turns to Christine, asking her how the Survivor's shop went for Gen Z yesterday, and Christine says it was fun and interesting. They each got something nice for themselves, so that reward win was definitely worth it. Justin then asks Millennials for the immunity statue back, so Lydia returns it to him. He then claims that immunity is back up for grabs. For today's challenge, one member will be on a large crate while the rest of the tribe pushes said crate to a platform. Then, the one member on the crate must get up onto the platform and wait for their remaining tribe members to line up along the line in the field. Then, the person on the platform will need to throw balls at them and have them each catch a ball successfully. The first tribe that gets every member to catch a ball will win immunity, safe from tribal council. Losers will head to tribal council and vote the 4th person out of this game. Justin then asks Gen Z to sit someone out, so Laura volunteers. With that, the tribes are all set up, and Gen Z chose Casey to stand on the crate while Millennials chose Omar. With that, the challenge begins so both tribes begin pushing. Millennials have a small lead right off the bat, but Gen Z aren't that far behind. It doesn't take long for both tribes to get to the halfway point, and then Millennials get to the platform first. Omar then hops onto the platform while the others head out into the field. Then, Gen Z gets to the platform so Casey hops onto the platform and waits for his tribe members to run onto the field. Millennials are ready on their line, so Omar begins throwing as many balls as he can at his tribe. Nick and Andy instantly catch one each, while Renee launches herself onto the ground on accident as she tries catching one. Gen Z then get to the line next, so Casey starts throwing his balls at them. Omar continues throwing as quickly as possible, but his shots start going too low to where nobody can catch anything. Casey also throws rapidly, and Phil and Denisha catch a ball each. Both Omar and Casey continue chucking balls, and more people start catching them. Shot after shot, Gen Z catches more and more balls, and they are only left with Christine and Bobby. Millennials meanwhile still have Lydia, Renee, Natalia, and Kendi without a ball. Omar keeps chucking many balls too low, while Casey manages to throw one into Bobby's arms. That leaves just Christine for Gen Z, and it doesn't take long for Casey to throw another perfect shot, allowing Christine to catch her ball. This means Gen Z wins immunity, safe from tribal council tonight. Millennials are meanwhile even more upset than before. Natalia then tells Nick to keep his negative loser energy to himself, but Nick ignores her. Back on the mats, Justin invites Gen Z up for their immunity statue, so Casey heads up and holds it up as they all cheer. Justin then turns to the Millennials, letting them know he'll see them tonight where someone will be the fourth person voted out of Millennials versus Gen Z. With that, both tribes head back to camp, and in confessional, Nick says he's tired of losing challenge after challenge, and it's because they have extremely weak tribe members who don't put in their 100% into challenges. As much as he sounds like a dick right now, it's becoming a fact that the ladies here aren't doing enough to help the tribe win more. Hopefully the woman that ends up leaving tonight is one of Renee or Natalia. Back at the Millennials camp, everyone is on edge after yet another loss, and in confessional, Andy says he doesn't have a clue what will happen tonight. Renee and Natalia are suddenly anti-him and Nick, so the dynamics are actively switching today. If he had to guess, this vote may come down to either himself, Nick, Renee, or Natalia going home. Andy then goes up to Omar and starts whispering, letting him know that if he or anyone else thinks there's some majority alliance since the Jamie vote, it's not a real thing. It's just something Jed wants to push for. Omar nods and says he trusts him and Nick, and in confessional, Omar says that tonight's vote is a big one for himself, Lydia, Kendi, and Rhea. They need to keep each other here because the other side is crumbling. If Andy is indebted to him, it's probably a smart idea to at least keep him for a few more rounds. A little bit away from camp, Natalia and Renee talk about the vote tonight, and Natalia asks if they should go against Nick tonight. Renee immediately says yes. Screw this whole challenge strength argument that Nick keeps bringing up. This game is about who you can live with as well. In confessional, Renee says that her number one goal today is to ensure Nick leaves because they are no longer working together. Herself and Natalia will benefit from this move because it makes them feel happier in general, and they will also have Andy as an easy vote if they lose yet another challenge afterwards. Lydia, Kendi, and Rhea meanwhile chat, and Kendi says he feels like there's a huge shift in this tribe's energy. Suddenly, they might be on the top. Lydia says she's not sure yet because this could all be some ploy, but regardless, they should try to continue splitting up that 5 majority. Rhea then promises she's not flipping this time around, and Lydia tells her not to stress over it. Kendi also tells Rhea not to think about that vote too much because if anything, one of them could have gone home to rocks anyway if they tied the vote. In confessional, Lydia says that the ideal move tonight is to vote out Renee because it earns the trust of Andy and Nick going forward. So far, Renee hasn't offered anything to her in the game, so there's no reason to keep her around. Omar later catches up with Lydia, letting her know that Andy and Nick are offering to be their new allies. Lydia then asks if they had a preference for tonight, but Omar says they'll go with whatever, though it's clear they want Natalia or Renee out. Lydia then tells him they should go with Renee then because she's not as useful for them as Natalia is. Natalia is much more of a gamer, which opens even more opportunities for them. Omar says he's good with this, and in confessional, Omar says that himself and Lydia are back at the top of this tribe. While they are also in a core alliance with Rhea called the Inner Knot, Rhea has shown a bit of distrust in the last tribal council, so they need a plan B if Rhea ends up flipping again. That plan B could be working with Andy and Nick. Renee and Natalia chat with Kendi and Rhea, and Natalia lets them know they are basically free numbers tonight and that they are willing to go for Nick. Rhea says she's surprised because she thought they were in a bit of an alliance together, but Natalia says absolutely not. They can't stand Nick. Kendi admits he also doesn't like Nick, and in confessional, Kendi says that he feels like the better move tonight would be to take out Nick. Natalia and Renee are already so emotionally done with him, which means they are way less likely to flip and keep them. Meanwhile, Nick and Andy could pull off some crazy shit and flip things around. Kendi then tells the two he would love to see Nick go tonight, and Rhea says that this should be a done deal then. Nick is the target tonight. Later in the evening, Andy and Nick stay at camp alone, and Andy tells Nick they need to just play it chill from now on and let the chips fall where they may. Nick asks him how his chats have been with the others so far, and Andy tells him they are solid, especially with Omar. Nick admits he's nervous, and Andy says he too is nervous, but they can't do much right now. In confessional, Nick says he doesn't feel that safe tonight, so he's thinking a lot about his hidden immunity idol at this moment. Himself and Andy lied to Omar before, so nothing is stopping Omar from flipping on them tonight. Plus, Renee and Natalia are running around spreading so much shit about him, so it's possible the others will buy into their arguments and try voting him out. Maybe he needs to play his idol and keep himself safe another day, but he'll hold off until he observes tonight's tribal council discussion. Kendi and Omar chat, and Kendi informs Omar that Renee and Natalia are locked in to vote for Nick tonight. Omar then says okay, but that doesn't mean they are going to follow through with it as well. Kendi asks how come, and Omar says that Lydia suggested it should be Renee because Andy and Nick are choosing to work with them. Renee and Natalia aren't offering that much game-wise moving forward. Kendi then asks if those two offering their votes against Nick isn't enough, and Omar says he doesn't know. He's just going with what Lydia suggested. In confessional, Kendi says he feels like this decision to vote out Renee is way too quick and simple and that not much thought has been put into it. Lydia did not go over the options with him, so it doesn't make sense that she's making the decision without anyone else's input from the alliance. Omar then tells Kendi they will need to weigh up their options more, it seems, and Kendi says he thinks they need to rethink their decision because Nick and Andy are snakes. They can't be trusted, unlike Renee and Natalia. As tribal council slowly approaches, Jed chats with Natalia alone, asking her what the move is tonight. Natalia then tells Jed she's voting out Nick with everyone else. Her and Renee have Rhea, Kendi, and hopefully Omar and Lydia locked in. Either way, there should be enough votes for Nick to go if they all stick to the plan. Jed sighs and asks her how they could just turn on the alliance so easily, and Natalia tells Jed she's extremely sorry they feel so sad about it, but Nick and Andy have never been trustworthy. Well, mainly Nick. Maybe once he's gone, Andy will be a lot more bearable as an alliance member. In confessional, Jed says there's no turning this vote anywhere else at this stage. It's either Renee, Natalia, or Nick leaving tonight. It's best not to keep pushing for this alliance because it's officially broken now. Tonight, they'll need to pick a side between Renee and Natalia or Nick and Andy, so there's some strategizing that still has to go down before tribal council. Jed later finds Nick and Andy at camp, so they join in and whisper to them, asking if they have a name yet. Nick and Andy say no, so Jed lets them know that Renee and Natalia are done with their alliance. They need to figure out what to do next. In confessional, Andy says that himself and Nick agreed not to spill anything to Jed because they aren't trustworthy. They might leak things back to Renee and Natalia, so it's best to keep quiet while talking game with them. Andy then tells Jed that all this drama within their five came out of left field. It doesn't make sense to him why Natalia and Renee flipped so suddenly. Jed then sighs and says they know exactly why, but they tried to keep it out of discussion. Nick then asks why, and Jed says it's because Natalia and Renee don't like Nick's politics. Nick immediately raises his voice and calls that bullshit to bring in politics like that, and Jed tells Nick to simmer down. Nick then says he might have to use his idol tonight, and Jed tells him they are glad he has an idol because he might need to save himself tonight. Nick shakes his head repeatedly and says he can't believe those two right now. He can't believe they bring politics into this game. His views aren't even that dissimilar from theirs. Andy tells him to chill because they need to lock in and focus on their goal, and that's to take out Renee. In confessional, Nick says that tonight's vote makes him extremely nervous because it seems like it's more of a personal move for people to take him out rather than a strategic one. If people solely based their decisions off of strategy, he'd be cool with Natalia and Renee and they take someone else out together. But now they are in a war, and it'll all go down tonight. Either him or Renee are leaving tonight, and he will beat himself up if he ends up losing tonight's battle. It's night 8, and Millennials arrive to tribal council and sit down in front of Justin. Justin then welcomes them all back for their third tribal council now, and he asks Nick why this tribe keeps coming back to tribal council. Nick then says it's a mix of bad communication and weak tribe members. Justin then asks Jed if perhaps Nick sees them as a weak tribe member since they've gone to all 4 tribal councils of the season so far, but Nick cuts in and says he doesn't think Jed is the problem. He thinks Renee and Natalia are the problem. Justin then asks Renee what she has to say to that, and Renee says that everyone knows how Nick acts around camp. He's this big bad wolf who thinks he's in control of everything. He controls the food situation, he controls the fire management, he controls literally everything. He's a control freak. An ugly one at that. Nick then smirks and asks Renee if they are bringing in looks into this, and Renee says he has an ugly face and that's okay. Nick then says she shouldn't be talking with those duck lips of hers, and Renee says he doesn't even have lips. Renee then asks Nick if he has a partner at home, and he says he doesn't, so she says she's glad because they would be embarrassed by him on television. Nick then says it's also very telling now to him that nobody actually cares about him getting attacked since it's extremely quiet everywhere else here. Justin then asks Omar what he thinks about all of this, and Omar says that Nick, Renee, and Natalia have been fighting for 2 days now. It's very uncomfortable for the rest of them who just want to live peacefully in the jungle. Natalia then brings up how they can all vote out Nick tonight and then there won't be any more drama. It's that simple. If one of her or Renee goes, the drama still remains. Justin then turns to Jed, asking where they stand in all of this, and Jed says they want to go with the majority. That's their goal tonight. They voted correctly once of the 3 times they went to tribal, so hopefully that 1 turns into a 2 now. Justin then asks Kendi if this vote really does come down to either Nick, Natalia, and Renee, and Kendi says it's pretty obvious at this point. They are the main focus these last few days. Justin then asks Lydia if much thought has been put into deciding which one of them should go tonight, and Lydia says of course. The tribe needs to move forward with people they can trust in the game. Their numbers are lowering more and more as they lose more challenges, so it's best stay united as a tribe as much as possible until a swap occurs. Justin then asks Omar if there truly will be less drama after tonight or if it'll continue going on, and Omar smiles and says there's always drama with the Millennials. Will it lessen after tonight? Perhaps, but it depends on the reaction after the results are out there. Justin then says that it might be a good time to see what will really go down, so everyone starts to prepare for the vote.
I'll tally the votes. If anyone has a hidden immunity idol and they want to play it, now would be the time to do so. Alright, I'll read the votes. First vote. Nick. Renee. That's 1 vote Nick, 1 vote Renee. Nick. 2 votes Nick, 1 vote Renee. Renee. We're tied. 2 votes Nick, 2 votes Renee. Renee. That's 3 votes Renee, 2 votes Nick. Renee. 4 votes Renee, 2 votes Nick. 4th person voted out of Survivor Millennials vs Gen Z. Renee.
Renee gets up and gives Natalia a hug before heading for her torch in silence, and Nick meanwhile exhales and turns to the others to thank them for keeping him. Natalia then sits down and rolls her eyes as Renee puts her torch down next to Justin. Justin then snuffs her torch, so she leaves without a word. Nick does a little wave to her as she goes, and Kendi sighs to himself. Justin then tells the tribe to head back to camp, so they all start making their way out. Next time on Millennials vs Gen Z, the Millennials are finally united after voting out Renee, which of course leaves Natalia on the outs. However, Jed drops a huge bomb that could change everything and force this 7-person group to retaliate. Meanwhile on the Gen Z tribe, Griff grows more suspicious of there being a big alliance in the tribe, so he begins working on a plan to get rid of an enemy that is Alara. This game brings a lot of uncertainty, and next episode will prove that you can never feel too comfortable. Renee's final thoughts. Renee feels like tonight's vote was the wrong move for the tribe as a whole because now they are all stuck with a knucklehead who doesn't know what show they are on. This isn't a weightlifting competition. This is Survivor. At this point, she can only blame the fact that she wasn't placed on the Gen Z tribe because she had very little interest to bond with people on the Millennials tribe. Heck, even Natalia started to bore her out. She's still rooting for her though. That's no question when the other options are all duds.